Om Shanti. So, welcome all of you to the Values for Life series episode 61. And as always, before we begin, we'll spend a minute in silence to invoke the presence of the Supreme Being. So welcome all of you. And we are so fortunate we have with us another very influential Raj Yogi sister with us, the Senior Raj Yogi sister. So welcome, Sister Aruna. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, welcome. Om Shanti. And before I go ahead with the poem and introduction, let me just tell you a little bit about Sister Aruna. Is not a new person over here. We know all about her very well, but there are quite a few new souls who join every time. So I think I'll just speak a few lines first in your introduction. So Sister Aruna has been practicing this meditation of Raj Yoga since over almost now 40 years. And you'll see that when she speaks, she's got this blend of both the cultures, the East and the West. She's a very well accomplished author. She's a regular blogger. And what I feel is important, she's been instrumental in establishing meditation centers in 4 different parts of the world: Canada, Vancouver, Istanbul in Turkey, Manama in Bahrain, and Kuwait City in Kuwait. And right now, as we speak, since the last, I think 6 or 7 months, she's back to the UK at the Global Retreat Center and offering all the services over there. She has a very staunch author. She has written 8 books, and all these books start with "it's time." So it's time for relationships, it's time for change, it's time to do the inner work, so on and so forth. And she's also received the Women of Excellence Award from the Yoga Federation of India in November 2014 for her contribution to social work. So, as always, a few lines on today's value, which is abundance. In Hindi, we also like to call it Behad, something unlimited. And as you can see in the flyer, it was Bharpurta and Prachurta. So, a few lines. Sister Aruna's vocabulary is full of spiritual parlance because her talks exude the vibration of immense abundance. She's always full of energy, cheerfulness, and exuberance. Being in her contact, we get the spiritual fragrance. As her face and activity reflect the divine radiance, which you can see, she shall guide us on how to create within the Renaissance, so that we stop living the life of redundance. With the Supreme Being now in our lives, there's no chance of any reluctance. So let's now lead our life in this spiritual indulgence and keep charging ourselves with the divine conductance. Because now, whatever we do, we will be filled with excellence because we have now learned how to go into the essence. So with this, I would now request Sister Claudia to please officially welcome Sister Aruna. Over to you, Sister Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manoj.
Om Shanti, good morning from our side. Good afternoon for your side. And good evening for all of those who are in India, whatever is getting dark. But here, it's really the beginning of the day. It's a nice beginning because we begin the day with you. So I'm so pleased to have you with us today, especially talk about abundance, because when I remember abundance, I remember my sister Aruna, because in your hands, nothing becomes small, everything becomes big. So I think you have the touch to transform small things and big things. So I'd like to welcome you with a nice bouquet of flowers from Vancouver for you to take it and then feel that you are here with us, yeah, today. And then welcome for being with us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Claudia. So I also have lovely memories of Vancouver, have lovely memories of Bharat. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And before we begin, a few housekeeping instructions. You can click on the interpretation icon and select the languages. We have almost 6-7 languages. And today it will be Sister Claudia who will be asking the questions. So if I could request the participants to direct the questions to her, you can see in the chat box, Sister Dr. Claudia Vancouver or Dr. Anu Patel, either of these. And we also have Dr. Ashok Mehta with us. He's joined a bit late, but he's around. So if you can make him co-host, Sister Anu. And with all this, we'll now pass it on to you, Sister Aruna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's just have a moment. And in this moment, we can think about the quality of abundance. So I'm now looking at all of you. So we feel connected, yes. Okay, so let's just take a moment, and I'd like you to think for yourself, what do you think is abundance? Okay. So firstly, when we think of abundance, let us clarify that it doesn't mean to accumulate. It doesn't mean that we have a lot in our life. But what it means is that there is the feeling, there is the experience of having a lot. So you don't need a lot to experience the abundance, but you need a rich spirit in order to experience the abundance. And so if there is this feeling generated from inside that I have, then you will automatically want to give. And this is where the virtue of abundance turns into the power of generosity. Because you feel that you have plenty, even if it's a little, but you feel that you have plenty, you have a lot, then you're able to give. Now in Hinduism, there are so many examples of how a little bowl of food was able to feed many gurus or many people. And even in our own organization, there was a little pot of food, but it was able to fill many stomachs. And that was because there was the attitude that there is enough. So how many of us go about our day feeling that we do have enough? Or do we feel that we don't have enough? Actually, in fact, when we had COVID, then there was the first thing that happened was this scarcity consciousness, that people feeling that they don't have. And I think one of the things that America was in shortage of was toilet paper. Can you imagine that in America, your prized possession is toilet paper? And I remember the stories about buying hand sanitizers. And there was a very powerful WhatsApp that was going around. And I still remember it because it was excellent. It said, before you take all the sanitizers off the shelf, remember that others also have to sanitize their hands. So if you keep all the sanitizers, what are others going to do? So they're just going to infect you. So you have to make sure that what you have, you share. And this is what abundance is about, actually. Abundance is about this consciousness of always feeling that I will have, not just that I have, but that I will have. So it brings in this element of trust. It brings in this element of faith. Now, I remember our senior sisters, dadis, they always used to say that when you start a center, be careful how many chairs you put there. Because if you put 5 chairs, 5 students will come. If you put 50 chairs, then 50 students will come. Because it's in your consciousness. If you have 5 chairs, then you say, oh, I have to fill 5 chairs. And then you say, oh, where will the 6th person sit then? But if you have 50 chairs, you're already broadening your consciousness. And so this is something that a couple of us were talking about today. On the one hand, we want abundance, but on the other hand, we have to economize. We have to be minimalistic. So is it enough that I just have 1 plate and 1 spoon and I say, okay, I'm happy with that because I'm a minimalistic? Or do I be abundant and say, actually, for the sake of others, for the sake of service, for the sake of inviting others into my life, making them feel welcome, I'm going to have 5 or 6 other spoons and plates. So this is the fine balance. It's not that we go to one extreme or the other, that I say, no, I only want a very simple life. We have a simple life, but within that, we also have to have this consciousness of being considerate to others. If I'm just thinking of myself, if I'm just thinking of, my welfare, then where is there margin to bring others into your life, to make them feel comfortable, to give them happiness, to make them feel included, to give them this sense of belonging? So I know in the world there is a big trend to have as little as possible, but this should not take away from the great consciousness of generosity, or this great consciousness of inclusivity or bringing people together. And I think that we have to be very careful about. And who is it? Who is the one that feels that I have? It's the one that has self-realized. And this is what we do in meditation. When we sit in meditation, then I realize that everything that I need is right here inside of me. If I don't tap into that great, abundant treasure store within myself, then of course I'm always going to feel empty. It's a bit like the example where you give somebody an apple. And so if you give them an apple, you're without the apple, right? If you give somebody $50, you're without the $50. But if you give somebody some knowledge, some wisdom, some love, some respect, now 2 people have the same thing. So what I'm talking about is emerging this great wealth of asset that's within the soul. In a sense, like the genie's lamp, we just have to polish the soul and all these virtues and powers emerge. And when I feel full with that, then I don't need anything else. Now, I'll give you an example. So I've been experimenting with food, eating food, not eating food, eating liquid food. And I've noticed that the more you give your body, the more it wants. The less you give your body, the less it wants. And not only that, but if you talk to your body and you tell your body, this is enough, the body responds, the body respects. And so it's the same with other things in our life. Let's talk about time. So again, many people feel that there's not an abundance of time. But maybe we should look at it differently. What do I need to do during those times? In other words, why do I want that time? If I want the time to do, 10 things, some of them are useful, some of them are purposeful, some of them might be a waste of my time. But somehow I want to squeeze so much into my life. Then I say there isn't enough time. But maybe I need to reduce my desires. And then there will be enough time. There's that story of the bottle. And in the bottle, you put the stones, then you put the pebbles, and then you put the sand and the water. And so there's this theory that once you do the big things, once you put the big rocks into your life, you manage doing the big important things, you will be able to put in the small things, fit in the small things. But the problem with that example is that they have defined the number of big stones, and they have defined the size of the bottle. Perhaps my bottle is smaller. In other words, perhaps my life can be short, or my life can only take in so much. So this theory doesn't hold true. So if I'm to achieve a lot, or if I'm to get a lot done, then maybe I need to look at quality rather than quantity. So it's not about not having time, but it's about using the time in a worthwhile way. Even food, let's take food again. So some people think I don't have enough to eat. Is it that you don't have enough, or there again is the palate to eat a variety of foods? Actually, fruits is enough, right? Or juices is enough. I mean, the body doesn't really need that much. But somehow I go after wanting this and that and the other. What about people? I say, for example, I don't have any friends. But there are enough people in the world that I can befriend. It's not for lack of people in the world. It's my lack of ability to befriend people, to find love, or to receive respect. Even wealth, I always say there's so much wealth in the world. I just have to attract it towards myself. The wealth is there, right? It's just not coming to me. So all of these things, when I feel that there is a scarcity of time or food or things, even to be able to do things in my life, I feel I'm not able to. If there's not that flow in my life, if there's not the people, if there's not the love, if there's not the respect, then I have to look at how I'm spending my energy. What am I putting out? Am I putting out a lack consciousness, a scarcity consciousness? Because if I'm putting out this energy that there's not enough, I don't have, then yes, I won't have. Because whatever goes out comes back again. And so this is why it's so important to cultivate this sense of I have plenty. So what is the language? What is the language of abundant person? And what is the language of a person that is lacking? So the language of the abundant person is I trust, I have faith, I have enough, I have everything I need. In fact, join me. I have plenty. And the language of the poor person is, how to protect this. And this is where, let me tell you, all the insurance companies leverage on our fear or lack or insecure consciousness. Every time you buy a ticket, there is this little box where it says, do you want insurance in case of loss or damage? And you weren't thinking negatively. You were not thinking that this is going to happen to you. But they put this thought in your head that this might happen. And so you say, oh, yes, okay, maybe it might happen. Okay, so let me pay for that. And this is how they loot you. So what about if we trusted? What about if I trust my fate? What about if I trust my good luck and I say, okay, there's a possibility that that could happen, but it's not going to happen to me. In other words, you see that again, it's an energy that I'm creating from inside, that everything will flow, that everything that will happen will be for my betterment and not my detriment. And this is only created with this, again, abundance consciousness. Actually, when I first started thinking about abundance, I thought, well, it's a very simple topic. What am I going to say? But then as I started to think about it, I thought, oh my goodness, this abundance consciousness affects all areas of my life. Whatever you do, even if you're about to embark on something where you're feeling like, let me, start a new venture or a new hobby or some new exercise, whatever. You need a little bit of a broad intellect to be able to do that. You need to be having positive thoughts. You need to be able to feel that I can, that there is enough time and there is enough confidence and there is enough self-respect. And I will be able to do it. So do you see how abundance permeates every area of your life? And now this energy then gets passed on to other people. So again, let me go back to the generosity. So why is it that people say that this person is generous? And that is because they're giving when they don't really need to, or they're giving more than they need to. Okay, so you go to the doctor and the doctor is meant to see how many minutes is it now? It used to be 10 minutes, I think about 6, 7 now. So even the doctors are told, that you can only meet the patient fewer minutes, so you see more patients. Okay, so say you're meant to see the doctor 10 minutes. But then the doctor takes interest and, speaks to your soul and he spends, say, half an hour with you. Then you would say, oh, he's so generous. Or you go to the greengrocer and you get your kilo of whatever, tomatoes and cucumber, but then he says, here, have a bit extra. So that's generosity. Generosity is that little extra that we do. So everybody does the ordinary. Everybody does what they have to, whatever is the basic. But when we do the little extra, that is called generosity. And for that, you again have to have a big heart that you will manage, that you will have, that you will receive. That by giving, I'm actually becoming richer, not poorer. So when I have this consciousness of giving, then this then actually gets filtered. I mean, it's a ripple effect. Then the other will feel, oh, they gave, so I can give. In fact, I have a true example of this. I mean, something was happening here. I won't say the names or the event. Not here, I mean in the UK. And there was something to be done. And then one sister who doesn't have much, but she said, I will give several thousand for this event. And she doesn't have a lot of money, but the others in the meeting had a lot more money. And they said to her, but where's this money coming from? And she said, well, I'll mortgage my house. In other words, she'll take a loan and all this. And there were others who had so much, but in their bank account, they didn't need a loan, but they didn't have the thought. But because she had the thought, then they felt, no, we have, so let us give. And they told her, no, you don't worry, we'll sort it out. So just one person's thought, because of their abundant consciousness, because they were willing to trust, then that instigated the other person to give. And not only that, but for example, when we want to do something, when we take the first step, that's the step of courage, isn't it? When we take that step of courage, we are actually encouraging other people as well. And so always be mindful that whatever I do, others seeing me will do the same. So let us come out of this scarcity consciousness. I always say that I've hardly worked in my life, but I've had food every day. I've had shelter on my head every day. And I trust that, later and tomorrow and the day after that I will. Now, that's not to say you just sit back and then expect things to come to you. And this is where we say, when you give, you receive. So this is what abundance consciousness does. It automatically makes you want to give. There's a beautiful saying that I have so much in my teacup that I'm drinking from the saucer. The teacup is on the saucer and it's overflowing, and first I have to drink from the saucer. In other words, I have so much that where do I start to enjoy it? So when I'm in that feeling of I have, then I have confidence, then I have self-respect. Okay, so how to attract? What if somebody doesn't have this abundance consciousness? How to attract it in my life? And this is the law of attention or the law of attraction, where I have to believe that what I'm seeking is going to come to me. Really, really believe, not just fool myself. In fact, I was looking at some of the clips of the Oscars, and there were about, I think, 3 speeches in which they said that dreams really come true. They were visioning this, they were working, they were doing their thing, just acting, whatever they were doing, and then wishing, of course, that they'd get an Oscar. And one day their dream came true. And so what I'm saying to you is, okay, that's in a worldly sense, and that's definitely possible. But I think it's even more possible in a spiritual sense. We don't need an Oscar to prove to ourselves that we are somebody. As we sit with ourselves, as we sit in meditation, then we're able to really create that whole, this feeling of wholeness in the soul, this feeling of abundance. And when you have abundance, when you have everything, then you have peace, and then you have happiness. So you're not unhappy. You're not sad. But there's this feeling of, actually the music is just playing here. Shall we just have a moment? Let's just pause for a moment. Yeah. So I have also seen many centers where even though the center is small, but they have exhibited generosity, whether it's inviting people to eat, whether it's in giving gifts, or whether it's just making people feel included. Just that big heart of sharing what you have. In fact, Sister Jayanti always talks about this. Sister Jayanti is now the joint administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris, and she always explains how in her early days when she was a child, she would visit Dadi Janki in the Pune center. Pune is in India. And Dadi Janki would buy these little bunches of methi, spinach, whatever, but some, cheap leafy vegetable. And she'd make a little sabji, a little kind of curry, and a few little chapatis, and she would feed Sister Jayanti. And this was Dadi Janki's food. This was her lunch, her main meal of the day. And yet she would share that with Sister Jayanti and a few other children. And so Sister Jayanti realized then that it wasn't about having a lot, but it was about having that big heart, willing to share what little that I had. And when I share with that pure consciousness, without wanting anything back, then that's what creates that's what plants those seeds, right, into the ground. And then what do you see later? Can you imagine that small deed enabled Sister Jayanti to give her life to this organization, where she's been at it for 60 plus years? So when something really touches our heart, actually, there's another thing I wanted to share. Sometimes some people can give something, but when it's not given with a good intent, with a good motive, then that thing will just sit there, or it won't be used as much or utilized as much. And when somebody has given something with those pure feelings, with good intentions, then that thing, whatever it is, whether it's the appliance or the cloth or whatever it is, that will get used again and again and again. And this is very subtle philosophy of karma, the intention with which it is given. So when I give also, let us check, right? When I give, am I giving because I want some name or fame to go with it? Or am I just giving it and then leaving it and trusting it that it will be used in a worthwhile way? And you must have seen this as well, some of you who are serving at centers. Or even those who are not, perhaps, those who are living at home, you get gifts, and sometimes that gift is stuck in the corner. And others, it's a small thing, but it's so practical that you just turn your attention to that thing again and again and again. So this is the thing now, where are we putting our attention? Where are we putting our focus? I always think, is this thing my attention worthy? And what I mean by that is, I'm talking of actually negative things. Somebody says something about you, somebody insults you. Again, I would say, be careful how many thoughts you create about that. Don't give so much attention to that, but give more attention to just being generous with your loving good wishes. See, this is also an art of, okay, I have all these thoughts, abundance of thoughts. Where am I going to channel these thoughts? How am I going to channel these thoughts? So if I channel the negativity and give that more power, then that's what comes back to me. But if I channel the positivity, So this is back to the law of attention. Where am I putting my attention? On the negative or the positive? So having a lot, this is the thing, isn't it? You might have a lot, but you only have a limited life in which to experience that lot. So how am I going to use this life? And the other thing that we've been noticing lately is how people are just leaving their body. In other words, they are dying suddenly. So we have these big aims, big hopes, big plans, and we want to acquire a lot, but to what end? And so this is why in this moment right now, I have to ensure that my every moment is a very powerful moment. In fact, one of my latest things at the moment is that what am I impressing on my soul? Because again, going back to the food, what I realized is that every time we eat, and if I say, oh, it's so lovely, it's so lovely, it's so delicious, I'm impressing that deliciousness into the soul. So when I do the fasting, what am I remembering? I'm remembering the memory of having eaten. It's not the food, but it's the memory of having eaten it. And that's why when we fast, then we can't detach from the food. And then I realized that we do the same thing with people. So I say, oh, this person is ever so nice, ever so good, and I get so influenced. Or I say, no, this person is not nice, not good. In other words, I'm giving it so much attention that then that leaves an impression on the soul. And then it's hard for me to detach from that. And so one of the things I've just written about lately is like, don't let it land. In other words, we have the power within us. We have the ability to think great thoughts. So just think great thoughts and don't allow the negative to land in your heart or in your soul. When it lands, it means that I have got affected. It means that I've now allowed this thing to control me. And when I allow it to control me, then I'm stuck. I cannot move on. So basically, don't allow it to land means how you do it is you deflect it and you say, you know what? I really wish you the best. Even with the food, okay, I'm eating the food, but then I say, it's great, it's okay, it's feeding the body, it's keeping me alive, and that's enough. Not to get so impressed with it. So this is going back to, again, how to use consciousness. This is about, I create a powerful consciousness, but then how do I sustain that consciousness? Many things will come to, which we say Maya, many things like Maya, like illusion, will come to make you feel that you are nothing. So you must know that story about this man. He's got an audience and he has a $20 bill, or let's say $100 bill. And so he asked the audience, do you want this bill? And they all raised their hands. There was about 200 people and they say, yes, we all want this bill. Then he crumples the bill and he asked them, do you still want this bill? And again, all the hands go up. Yes, we still want this bill. And then he puts it on the floor, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't step on money. But he puts it on the floor and he stamps on it. Then he lifts it up again and he says, who still wants this bill? Right, $100 bill. And they all say, we. In other words, no matter what happened to that bill, it didn't lose its value. And so it's the same for us. No matter what happens to us, we shouldn't lose our sense of self-respect. We should always believe ourselves to be great. We should always feel, actually, when we are giving something to the world, when we are serving, when we are offering to the world, then we should be proud of that. That's why, again, back to abundance consciousness. It makes you want to give. It makes you want to serve. It gives you a purpose in life. But okay, now let's move on to how to fill myself. Because we all know that we cannot fill ourselves here, right? Everybody is an empty tank. But there's only one petrol station. And that petrol station is God. So when we turn to God in meditation, in that silence, and then we're able to take power, we're able to self-realize, because what happens in that silence is there's no other sounds to distract us. And so what happens in that silence is I can hear my own thoughts. And that becomes a mirror for me. And then I ask myself, okay, what do I want to experience here? What is it that I want to do here? Do I want to keep being that critic, self-critic, putting myself down? Or do I want to really turn into that angel that is always just empowering the self? So that's also in our hands, isn't it? Nobody's going to come to us every day and say, there, you've done a great job. But I can, right? I can do it to myself. I can say, okay, Aruna, well done, keep going. You're doing great. So it's not about ego here. It's about really, I would say, like empowering the self. Have this positive self-talk going on in your mind every day. So positive self-talk, and then gratefulness, an attitude of gratitude. Am I grateful for all the things that I have? You know, happy people focus on what they have, and unhappy people focus on what they don't have. So are you a happy person or unhappy person? Because if you focus on what you have, then again, you'll have more, because the universe will say, give it to her, give it to him, because they know how to appreciate it. But if the little you have, you keep complaining, it's not enough, it's not good enough, I wish it were like that, or nobody cares, nobody loves me. If that is the kind of self-talk, then no matter how much comes your way, there will not be that appreciation. So I always say, be happy with a little, then you will be happy with a lot. Yeah? Appreciate what is coming your way. And then back to law of attraction. What am I doing in law of attraction? So I sit in the meditation, and I'd like you to really visualize the kind of life that you want to live. Ask yourself, do you want friends? Do you want love? Do you want respect? Do you want a flow? A flow in your life means everything is smooth. Everything is just happening naturally. You don't have to push it like a donkey. This thing happens and that thing happens and that thing happens. And it's just like mechanical, like automatic. That's how we want life, right? So with this abundance consciousness, it's totally possible. So yeah, back to, meditation. And then what am I doing? I'm visualizing, and then also I'm connecting with God. God is the most abundant one. Can you imagine God being empty? Can you imagine going to God and saying, God, you know what, I want a little bit of your love. And God will say, oh, I've run out of that. Can you imagine God saying that? Not at all. Oh, God, can you be a little kind? And God will say, no, I was kind to you yesterday. No. So God is, we say God is the ocean. He's the ocean of everything. And that's why we all turn to God. Because we know that God will be the one to, fulfill us. There's no human being who can fulfill us as well as God can. And for that, I just need to be in the right frequency, the right vibration. Just as when I'm doing law of attraction, what am I doing? I'm getting into the frequency of what I want. It's a bit like you want to listen to pop music, you turn to the pop channel. You want to listen to classical, you turn to classical. You want to listen to some news, you turn to the news channel. So here with God, I turn into the frequency of God, or I turn to the frequency of abundance that I have. So remember what I said in the beginning. It's not that you have, and that's why you say I have, but your heart believes it, your mind believes it, you feel that you have. In fact, in my purse, and actually, Sister Claudia, it was given to me in Vancouver. So it's, I don't know how many, 25 years old. I was given a little $1 million note. And it's in my purse all the time. And it's just there. It's not that I, have to tell myself all the time that I have, but it's just there. It's just symbolic that there is abundance. It's not a real $1 million note, but it's, it's symbolic. But the point is that it's there to raise your awareness that you have. There's no lack of anything. So yeah, I don't know if you, I think what are we doing? Shall I do a little meditation or are we doing some questions?
I think we have still time. If you want to still speak about some more topic, maybe 10 minutes, then we'll take questions.
Okay. So the other thing, that in Hindi, what do we say? We say kanjus makes you manhus, right? So when you are miserly, then you become depressed. So this is the point, that when I'm not sharing, when I'm not, in fact, they say that it's actually, again, an unspoken law, that if you are gifted with something, then it's really, in a way, your responsibility to share that with others. If you don't share it with others, then what happens? Then yes, you are miserly. So the thing is that if I'm miserly, then yes, I'm just stuck in my rut. I'm just very upset. Again, back to these negative thoughts, not having enough, nothing working for me. So keep that in mind as well. I mean, it rhymes in Hindi, but I think you get the drift. And then I want to share that yesterday, or day before yesterday, we had a judge here. And he was just in India. And he happened to go to some legal event, some big conference. Then he was on the plane traveling somewhere, local flight. And he bumped into the same man who was at the event. They were literally side by side. And this person then invited him to his place. And they went for a lovely lunch. And then they were going to go somewhere. They came back again. And now this man said, I'm sorry, I'm not able to invite you again for lunch. But can I send my driver with some things? And he said, sure. And so he sent them some, as we say, mishtan, this sweet meats, and a lovely shawl, which he explained was the same shade of color as his wife's face. He was an English judge. And I'm sharing this example because he was just so taken aback by the generosity of the Indians. Here's somebody they've just met on the plane. They invite them for a lovely meal. Again, he didn't need to phone and say, I'm sending some gifts. But he did. And you see how that leaves a mark on your soul. So anytime really we go out of our way to do something extra, we say in English, right? That extra mile, when we go that extra step, that extra mile, then that really, it doesn't get forgotten. And it really touches the heart. We have seen this with Dadi Janki and other Dadi Prakashmani. And remember, it's not the big things that they do. It's the small things that they do. So like Dadi would remember you and keep a mango for you. It is such a small thing. But the fact that she remembered to give that to you, or she would ask about you. Has she come back? Has she gone up? Has she gone to sleep? It's the little things that really go the long way. And so when you are thinking to practice abundance in your life, then just start small, start simply. And just say, okay, how can I make this person feel like they are so special? How can I make others feel special? Because that is what's going to leave that mark on the soul. And then again, because we understand karma philosophy, we know that it's going to come back to us. Let me share another story with you that I shared this morning in our session this morning. And again, this is about this love that we have for God and appreciation that we have for God, just pure love. So the story is about, some of you might know it, so excuse me, but it's the story about Krishna, and he had two wives. So I think they are called Satyatama and Rukmani, if I'm correct. And Narad comes along. Narad is the sage, and he tells them, look, if you renounce something that you love so much, then you will go to heaven. And Satyabhama says, or Satya, I don't know, let's say Satya. She says, well, I love Krishna so much, so I've got to renounce Krishna. So she said, okay, we're going to leave Krishna. We're going to divorce him and leave him, and you take him. And so they divorce Krishna. Actually, they just separate. And when they're away, then both of them are now beginning to miss Krishna a lot. So they go back to Narad and say, look, we really miss him a lot. So then Narad says, okay, then now you have to put him on this weighing scale. So Krishna on one side, and on the other side, put all the things that he has given to you. And so this Satya one, she starts bringing all the jewelry and gold and gems and everything, and she starts putting that on the other side of the scale. And what happens? It just gets lighter and lighter, and Krishna is still heavy. And then she gives up. She's tired, she gives up. And then Rukmani comes, and then what does she do? She takes everything off that scale, and she just puts a tulsi leaf, and the scale goes down. And this was symbolic of just the pure love. And again, very metaphoric story, but again, it's this aspect of we don't need much. Just a little bit of essence, a little bit of pure love, a little bit of pure intention, a little bit of pure generosity, and it will tilt the scale. So there's also another story where there was this lady who didn't like her mother-in-law. So she went to the sage and said, look, I don't like my mother-in-law. I'd really like to poison her, but I'd like to poison her slowly. So can you give me something that will enable that poison to work where then I don't get into trouble? And so this is a very smart sage. And he says, yeah, I think I can do that. So he says, okay, but for this, I'm going to give you this powder. But together with that, you're going to have to be extremely nice to her so that nobody detects that it's you. Nobody feels that it's you, you know, that has any issues with her. She said, okay, I can try that. So she goes back with this powder, and then she puts that into this lady's food, her mother-in-law's plate every day. But at the same time, she begins to be nice to her mother-in-law. And as she begins to be nice to her mother-in-law is nice back to her. And everybody's thinking, what's going on now? They're getting on so well. What's happening? And so after 2 months, actually this was for 3 months, the powder. And then after about a month or two, she feels, I don't want to kill her now. She's such a nice person. So she goes back to the sage and says, well, do you have an antidote for this? Because I don't want to kill her. And the guru says, yes, as expected. He said, I knew that this would happen. And so the powder was nothing, really. It's not going to kill her. So again, we always say, no, if you want to kill someone, kill them with your love. Not with your hate, not with your fear. And really just zap them with your love every day, bit by bit by bit. So have so much that you can't contain it. That's how I see abundance. Have so much, have the feeling of having so much that you cannot contain it. You have to share it. And then see what happens with your life. Okay?
Thank you so much, Sister Aruna. Now, Sister Claudia, I'll hand it over to you. Because Brother Manoj is traveling and...
Om Shanti Aruna.
We see him in the taxi or in the car. I'm not sure. Yeah.
He's in the
car.
conference.
Okay.
Yeah. Om Shanti. As, that is one question I have to ask you is, you said the scarcity means lack of faith. And also they have so much, but they still wants to save for later, no matter if you tell them later, maybe you don't use, but still that feeling of scarcity is on themselves. How can we help them to overcome that feeling of scarcity all the time? How can we help them?
Yeah, so this is the thing, isn't it? That I really have to trust. I really have to trust that I will have enough at the time of need. And I think what happens with us who are practicing this for a while, we have practical examples that things can work, things will work. And so it's happened already that we have been proven right or wrong, depending. And so now we can say that with conviction. But what I would say to people who are now starting this philosophy, new way of thinking, is practice with small things. You know, just put the thought out for something that you want. And you'll see in some shape or form, you will receive it. May not be in the way that you want, but you will receive it. And so then you prove to yourself that your power of thoughts can really work. So I don't need to hold on to so much to feel the security. I just need to create more securing thoughts in my mind. And this is the difference between being the master and being the slave. Because if I hold on to things thinking I'm secure, I'm still slave to those things. Whereas if I create powerful thoughts, then I've created my own, in a sense, insurance policy, right?
You talk about Sister Janti and Daddy, and I have a practical proof of this with you. I was, when you are in here in Vancouver, you have a job, very little money, but you invite me for a dinner. You made a dinner, 5-star dinners, 5-star, not 3-star, 5-star. And I always think how you could transform that little bit in so big, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the love that you had and some feeling that's behind that. I still kind of remember that so much. So the same way as Sister Janti remember Daddy, I remember you as well on those times. And you know what I'm talking. And it was so much abundance on those dinners, you know, and you transformed little things and big things. So that's what I wonder, what would go in your mind all those times? What was in your mind?
Yeah, just this feeling of just wanting to give happiness. We were talking about that this morning as well in the class. Like, what is service? Service doesn't mean to do big things, but service means to give happiness. But when you were coming, it's not that I was thinking that I have to serve Claudia now, but you just want to make others happy. And of course, I did what I could. I mean, I'm an okay cook, but I just knew that, I wanted to give you a good time. And I think your mother also came, right? On 1 or 2 occasions,
Yeah.
So just that again, this consciousness of, let me make others happy. And so it may not be a lot that you can share, or it may not be the most perfect thing you can share or the perfect meal, but because your intention is so pure, then that's what people pick up as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, you said about abundance is related to self-respect. Sometimes we see people who spend lots to try to get some love for someone. Yeah. And sometimes also we see that they spend more than what they have. And after they keep talking about they don't have enough. How do you explain those two sides, opposite side?
Yeah, well, I remember when I was first living in England, before I left for all these countries, then there was always this line that Friday they earn, and by Sunday they've spent it. So basically from hand to mouth. So, I mean, in England, this was the thing. They'd kind of go and spend it on the pub or in restaurants or in shopping. In those days, there was weekly earnings. And so, but by Sunday, it's blown off. So there could be some people, who have a lot, but don't know how to spend it, actually. They don't know how to manage their resources. And yet, again, it's the attitude of not having enough, even though they have enough, but they feel they don't have enough because they don't quite know how to manage their assets. And then you have those who have a little. But again, because they know how to manage, it goes a long way. And I've seen this many times with many students. And you know how many projects we've done, how many service events we've done. I mean, it's all managed by students. So it's not that everybody's rich. And again, when I was living in the Middle East, people used to think that, because, Middle East is very rich. It's got oil money. All the students must be rich. It's not that they're rich, but that they have a big heart and that they want to give with their heart. And it's the same, I think, in other parts of the world where people want to serve, people want to make a difference. So it's again back to our consciousness of how we use it, that it will stretch or not. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Yeah, there is a question here on the chat that they ask, what do you think about the threatening financial situation in the world right now? And we still see abundance. So there's so much, people are talking about so much, there is not enough money, not enough this and that, especially with the money. So
yeah.
how do you still think about abundance on this kind of world we are living now?
Yeah, so see, I have been thinking about this. See, the thing is that when people start to live in community, then everybody can live and everybody can survive. But if each one is going to be living in their flat, consuming what they are, and again, wanting, let's say, a lot or wanting selfishly, that is not going to work. And so at some point, there's going to have to be cooperation. At some point, there's going to be a bit of give and take. And when that happens, then communities thrive because somebody has something that they can offer. Somebody else has something else they can offer. And this is how communities, make things work. But if each one is in isolation, each one doesn't want to cooperate, each one doesn't want to accommodate or tolerate, then yeah, there's going to be a problem. So I believe like we live in communities. And so basically we are kind of managing our resources. So for example, you'd need one heating system to heat 10 people as opposed to one heating system for one person. Do you see? Same with car and fuel. If there are 5 people traveling together as opposed to one person. So this is where I think some changes, some adaptation needs to happen. There's no need to panic because I do believe that we have managed and we will manage. It's just a question of, again, changing our mindset, trusting that things will work out. We'll have enough to eat. We'll have enough shelter. It is about trusting as well.
I think that we learned at COVID time, no? When there was lack of so many things, of gloves or masks and everything. And we still will survive. I always think about that because we just have to have the faith that things are just in the darkness now, but light has to come.
Yeah. And people were helping each other, like when there are crisis situations, people tend to help each other more. And then when the crisis is over, they go back to their little shell, their little hut, their little selfish streak. So we shouldn't keep crisis in mind, but I think we should just be mindful to be thinking of it. Actually, there's a new term I learned today. There's a new disease in the world, and it's called eco-anxiety.
Oh.
Yeah, eco-anxiety. And eco-anxiety is people being worried about what's going to happen to the planet. And is there going to be enough for the planet? Are we going to be able to survive? And they don't know how to cope with all these stresses or, well, financial crisis is one, but also what's happening to the planet and all these natural disasters and maybe crops not growing. So there's people having this sickness and taking treatment for that. So that was a new thing I learned today.
Okay, maybe just one more question, Anu. So
we have 5 minutes, Sister Claudia.
Okay, so you said that the thoughts are the key for abundance. So for us to have unlimited abundance, that means we have to have unlimited thoughts. So how do you go for that? Can we, like if we think too much high, can we just, if we don't get it, and then can we feel a little bit distressed? So how do you manage the thought that you don't go too much unlimited, but it still is unlimited?
You mean,
you know what I mean?
I think you mean.
Don't think you go too much in high. So like say, today I think I'm going to have a palace, no?
Oh, like that.
And the palace doesn't come to me. I'm just giving an example. Just
when,
like
you You may get a palace, but it may, as I said, not be in the way that you thought, you know?
That's right.
Like I'm living in a palace, but it's not the palace I would have thought.
So what is missing for don't get that palace?
Yeah, so okay. So again, I've thought about this a lot. So you don't ask for things, but you ask for the qualities. So if you don't say, I want to be in a palace, but you might say, I want comfort. You know, or you don't say, I want a big house, but then you say, I want space. And because see, the thing is, when you tell the universe and you're very precise, you may get what you want, but it, again, not what you really wanted. But behind that thing, when you're wanting, okay, say you want a nice car. Okay, why do you want the nice car? So again, yes, safe, secure, fast, reliable, comfort, all that. So it's the qualities, isn't it? It's the qualities. So then, you know, focus on those qualities. And then, yeah, you may even get a better car than you had envisioned. But don't stay stuck on that limited vision. See, because we are visual and we're living through this body, this physical reality, then we are so focused on material things. And we think that is it, you know, that's the BMW or that's the house in the suburb or whatever. But no, it's the experience of it. So let us zoom in into the experience of what we want. And actually, after a while of doing this, you realize you can even get this through very deeper states of meditation. So you don't need to rely on those things. So even if I say, like, for example, I say, okay, I want a fast car, but fast car, and then what? You can't even drive as fast as the car allows because all the speed, can you believe now in Oxford, in the Oxford city, now from 30 miles an hour, they've made it 20 miles an hour. So you might as well walk. You know, so you might have a fancy new car, but you're, you know, just slowly plodding along. So is it about a fast car? Is it, what is it? So get more into the experience of what it is you want and focus on that and experience that. And you can also through meditation.
So would you say that abundance is a kind of a letting go? Like letting go whatever you have?
Well, first you have to have the right thoughts and then you let go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a bit like we say, well, we said in Middle East, like first you tie your camel and then you leave it to God. So it's like that. First you create thoughts of I have plenty, I have enough. You know, there's abundance, enough to share, everything's good. First you have these thoughts and then you can let go. You can't just let go without doing this work, because when we have these thoughts, we're planting those seeds. And then the fruits will come, right? You can't get a fruit without planting. So first, these thoughts have to be generated, that there is enough. That's why it's consciousness. See, thoughts create consciousness. So enough of these thoughts will create this abundant consciousness. And then I'll live by that, because then whatever I do, it will penetrate that action. Okay, so say so you come to my house and I'm living abundant consciousness. You come to my house, I'll say to you, okay, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want to use that? Do you want to sleep there? Do you want to eat this? It will naturally, right, overflow into these deeds. And then you'll be happy. And I'll be happy that, you know, I did what felt good. And then you will go away and then you will do the same for others. So it's like a ripple effect. Then you let go. You see, first you create powerful thoughts, then you let go.
Great. I think that's the way how you live, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm practicing these things all the time and it's working. It's working. I have everything.
Yeah.
I'm the richest.
We can see it's working. Okay, I think with time is up, so we should go back to Anu, because we like to also have you having a abundance meditation for us to bring us all that back to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Sister Claudia, very practical questions. I think we saw some insight. We got some insight. Thank you so much, Sister Aruna. Now we have with us Dr. Ashok Mehta, so I'll invite him for the vote. Thank you.
Om Shanti Aruna Ben. So nice to hear from you. One of the things I've noticed when I came to the Brahma Kumaris way back in late 80s, that the generosity is a attitude of giving. It's a Baba's gift to all of us, that give and share. So every time I went, they gave me a lot of gifts, and I refused to accept. I felt that we should be giving to sannyasins. I thought at that point that these people are sannyasins. And then they said, no, it's a godly gift. And then I would accept. But what I realized was this was an attitude, or this was a way of life, that a whole organization was built. Even if I went to a smaller center, they would still give me something. And I would accept very easily now. I know that this is the love that's given. It's a sharing. The attitude of sharing, it's a way of life. This way of life I'd seen in my community as well. In the olden days, the communities were not very rich, but that was a system that if somebody's getting married, everyone goes and pitches in. You give little, but it's participation at the same time support. That was the way. It's like if you make good food in your house, you make it more and share it with others, the neighbors. You give little, but still, it's a way of showing love, and one can say generosity as well. I think generosity not only in giving the material things, but the non-material things sometimes is very effective. You go and see somebody who's not well, and you spend some time with them. That brings a lot of cheers and a lot of happiness, and you are generous with your time and with your feelings. I think generosity is the way of life with the BK families. And I think that comes from him direct, that we must give whatever we have. We are always given an example. The sun continues to give its rays. The tree gives the fruits, and the river gives the water. And each one of them tells us that give, be generous. And I've always enjoyed one thing with the BK families is a generosity. Generosity across the board, small or big, rich or poor. They have that way of expressing themselves through sharing little things or big things. Thank you very much. I think you brought it out in tremendous depth. I think what you talked about, attitude, is attitude of giving. That's very, very important. Thank you very much for sharing your beautiful thoughts on generosity. You were very generous with generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Thank you so much.
Was Dr. Ashok Mehta, and definitely we are all taking so much, Sister Aruna. Before we go to meditation, let's just quickly, I'll take a minute to announce the upcoming sessions. So, as we always do, our workshop on abundance will be after 1 week. That's 25th March, Saturday. Time is slightly changed. It's 7 a.m. for West Coast, US, Canada. That's 7:30 p.m. India time. And first hour is experiential exercises. So that's for us to go deeper and experience this value of abundance, to practically feel, experience whatever Sister Aruna shared today and experiment them out. And in the second hour, we'll have Brother Yogesh from Turkey. He will take us through further insightful talk on abundance. So please save your date. And the silence retreat of this month is on abundance. It would be the last weekend, Sunday, 26th March, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. India time. That is Saturday, 25th March evening, 8 to 10 p.m. West Coast, US, Canada. This retreat is based on Brahma Kumaris teachings, and we'll invite all of you to come and experience. And our next session of Values for Life series is episode 62 on open-mindedness. So that's something to think about, go deeper. So in Hindi, it's khuli soch, again, thoughts, where can we take it to? For that, we'll have Brother Eric, who is the National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris Canada, who will join us from Montreal, and Sister Gayatri, who is the Brahma Kumaris representative to the UN, United Nations, and a Raj Yoga practitioner for many decades. She'll be joining us from New York, USA. We'll have a dialogue and take through this beautiful, unique value, open-mindedness. On 1st of April, Saturday, after 2 weeks, same time, 7:30 a.m. West Coast, US, Canada, and 8 p.m. India. And check our websites, vyasa.in, vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca, for all the information about all these programs, and our videos, including today's program video, will be on our YouTube channels. Also, the video of today's episode you can find on the playlist. That's omshanti.tk/playlist/English. So check them out. Thank you, everyone. And now I'll hand it over to Sister Aruna to take us through.
Yeah, just sit comfortably. Try not to hold on to anything. I'd like to now go into my soul and have a look to see how many treasures there are. Every soul is full. But we don't realize that we are full till we actually experience that fullness. It's a bit like having something in the house, but not realizing that it's there, that you have it. And so now, as we take time to just sit with ourselves, to just try and focus on I, the self, I, the soul, I begin to look at my life. And there may have been ups and downs. There may have been unkind things. But I'm sure there were also pleasant things. I'd like you to zoom in on those positive, pleasant experiences. Maybe the people that came into your life. And how they became your guide, helper, friend. Maybe it was a certain book that you picked up. Maybe you were just led. Maybe it was just a circumstance, an event. And so just try to join the dots and see how life is looking after you, taking care of you. Because nothing happens just like that or in isolation. And now we come to the present moment. I'd like you, with your mind's eye, to just look around you in your life. And again, just appreciate the people, the comforts, the safety, the love. And just see how full your glass is, the glass of life. And just appreciate that you have a clear mind, a clear intellect, a pure heart. And all these are assets of the soul. You have help when you need it. You have trust. People trust you. So all this is abundance. It means more than just things or money. So now we turn our attention to God, to the Supreme. And again, I'm so thankful that He is taking care of all of us. God has a special ray of light for each one of us. That's our source of power, source of protection, source of nourishment. And so always try to stay under that canopy. Because whatever is God's is mine. Whatever is mine is God's. And so it's a perfect partnership. So just repeat these few lines inside your mind quietly. Everything that I need is right here inside of me. I am overflowing. I am abundant. I share my gifts with everyone. I am so grateful.
Aruna, I felt that was very empowering meditation. Thank you so much. We actually usually take the photo before meditation, but we missed it. But I think we are still here. We don't want to miss it. So everyone likes to have the photo. Everyone, you can please switch on your videos and photos. Anyone, another few seconds if you want to switch on your video. Yes, I got it all. Thank you everyone for being here. And yes, Manoj brother is still with us. And Aruna.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Thank you. See you again.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Shanti.